Welcome everybody. Welcome to this Data Vault Friday. My name is Julian Brunner. I'm a BI consultant here at Scalefree. And yeah, we run this session every Friday, 11 a.m. Central European Time. And in this session, we're gonna answer any data-driven topic about Data Vault, but also more general topics like big data and so on. If you have any questions, feel free to submit them here in the chat or in advance. I will show you in the end of the session a link to a form where you can submit your question in advance. Today's topic, we had a discussion with a client. They are planning, or they were unsure if they should implement or add a persistent staging area. So we're gonna talk about it today. But first of all, why do we even need a stage? So from a data vault perspective, there are basically two main purposes. One purpose is the source system isolation. So we're gonna extract the data as fast as possible from the source system in order to reduce the workload on the operational system. And performance optimization. So you're gonna decouple the extraction process from the loading process to improve the overall performance. In traditional data warehouses, there are some more functionalities like data quality checks. So you can do a data quality check as well in Data Vault 2.0 environment. But traditionally, you are performing initial data cleansing, validation, and so on, and data transformation in general. So traditional data warehouses apply transformation like data type conversions, aggregations, joins, and so on already in the stage. So that's the ETL approach. But with Data Vault 2.0, we follow the ELT approach, and we never apply any transformation or solve tool before loading the data into the raw data vault. So let's quickly look at the characteristics of a PSA compared to a TSA. A persistent staging area, the data is stored for an extended period, often indefinitely. So you will have multiple batches of data, either full loads or data loads, could be anything. And therefore, it maintains a historical record of the source data. And a PSA could be on a relational or NoSQL database. So both is possible, but we recommend to use a NoSQL database for multiple reasons. We're going to talk about them in a minute. The transient staging area, the data is stored only for the duration of the ETL process, which means there's only one batch available in the stage. That's because the data is usually deleted or truncated after or before each load cycle. And the stage is typically in a relational format. Let's look at the advantages and drawbacks of a PSA. With a PSA, you are able to fully reload the history in case of any errors. One reason why a full reload is necessary is when there were, for example, modeling mistakes that break the unit of work. But mistakes occur even with an automation tool in place, but you can fix the issue and completely reload your raw data vault entities. In case you use a data lake on a NoSQL database, again, that's what we recommend. There's no data management needed because the data is stored in files, so JSON or Parquet files. And whenever there's a change in the source schema, for example, a new attribute, your process doesn't break as the data is stored in the semi-structured format. But of course, you have to reflect these changes in your data vault model, but you can deal with it later, not necessarily immediately. This brings me to the next advantage, the decoupling of the PSA ingestion and data vault integration. First of all, you can dump all the data that is available into the data lake and start modeling the data vault with the most important data. This is why this way you are able to step by step extend your model in an agile fashion. So you don't have to integrate all data at once because the full history is already in your data lake. Another advantage is that data scientists can access the data lake directly and perform computationally intensive data mining, machine learning algorithms, whatever. And last but not least, a PSA enables the possibility of virtualized raw data vault. There are also some drawbacks in case you use a relational stage as a PSA. Then of course there's more data management effort that you need to perform in case the source structure changes, and of course there are higher storage costs. But nowadays there are options to reduce the costs on a PSA. Usually you can move the data into cold or even archive it and you reduce costs. There are then slower response times, but slower response times if you query the data, but you typically don't need old data regularly. You need to put some effort into setting up the PSA, because if you structure the stage badly, it can result in a decreased performance. The goal is to load only new data or new batches into the data vault. So you need to structure the stage accordingly. And it could be more difficult to meet compliance requirements, for example, for GDPR reasons. As you might know, there is the right to be forgotten for personal data. Data Vault 2.0 has a solution for it, but on a data lake, it's not that easy as on a relational database, but there are still some solutions for it to create a GDPR compliant data lake. But yeah, that's worth in a completely own session, I would say. But again, you have to put some effort into it. Let's check the advantages and drawbacks for a transient stage. One clear advantage is the simplicity. So the processes are straightforward and do not require any complex setups. So you basically create a one-to-one copy of the source system. Simplify data management. The temporary nature of the data simplifies data management tasks. There's less need for complex data archiving, backup, or recovery procedures related to the staging area itself. And there's no need to care about schema changes in the first place. And because the data is held only temporarily, the need for extensive storage capacity is minimized. This is particularly beneficial in environments with limited storage resources or when dealing with very large data sets. And performance, so with less data to manage, ETL processes can often run faster. This can lead to quicker data loading and improved overall system performance. And that's basically because the data is only there for the duration of the ETL process. There's less overhead over in the system. Drawbacks are clearly if your data warehouse encounters errors or needs reloading, the transient staging area does not allow such a reload, including a full historization. With a TSA, you will have to go back to the original source systems, and this can be very time consuming and might even be impossible if the source data has changed or is maybe no longer available. In the best case, you get a full load, but the history in the end is completely lost. For the TSA itself, there's no data management needed in case of schema changes in the source. So let's say there's a new column for source table. the stage easily reflects those changes, but an adaptation in the data vault is necessary as well. So you need to do those changes immediately. Otherwise, the data for the new column is lost when it gets overwritten with the next load cycle, right? Let's compare PSA with TSA, and I'm gonna assume that the PSA is on a data lake. So first point, data retention. On a persistent staging area, of course, it's long term. On a transient stage, it's short term. Storage on a PSA, there are increased storage costs, but again, there are possibilities to reduce the costs. On a TSA, there are low storage requirements or storage costs. The complexity, I put the complexity for PSA to medium. It's not impossible to create a performant data lake or PSA, but of course the complexity is higher compared to a transient stage. The complexity of this transient stage is quite low. Regarding compliance, on a PSA you have to really think about it. If you need to fulfill any GDPR requirements, then you're gonna have a high effort there, or let's say an higher effort compared to TSA, because there basically there are no GDPR requirements because the data is deleted with every load cycle. So there you don't have to care about personal data. For example, complex deletion process, for example. Data management on a PSA is quite low, as you don't have to care about schema changes, and it's the same for TSA. So again, speaking just for the staging area itself, not for the downstream processes. Troubleshooting is again easy on a PSA. You have the possibility to fully recover or reload the history, and you have a full lineage in the end. And on a TSA, it's more difficult because it's limited. You don't have the possibility of full reloads. Regarding auditability, here it goes in the same direction. On a PSA, you are fully auditable. You can reload the history whenever you want. On a TSA, there's a risk of data loss. All right. I hope that answers the initial question or like topic for a comparison of a persistent stage and transient stage. Are there any questions? Let me check in the chat. It's not the case. There's one question. TSA is used in Data Vault 2.0. So in the book, there's a chapter about the stage, and there a TSA is actually described. So of course you can implement a Data Vault architecture with a transient stage. That's completely possible. But nowadays we recommend to use PSA because of the advantages I just mentioned regarding data management, historization. So there are a couple of advantages. But again, a Data Vault would work with a TSA or PSA. All right, any other questions? Okay, it's not the case. So if you're interested in a community where you can ask questions, discuss topics, latest trends, feel free to sign up. You can scan the QR code here and sign up for the Data Innovators Exchange. So it's free basically, and there are some calendar features where you can see any upcoming events. Okay, I see there's one more question. Do I understand correctly that some tools actually require PSA, for example, DBT? No. So at least DBT does not require a PSA. DBT, for example, can read any data sources. Of course, the DBT is basically the T in ELT. So you have to load the data first, and then DBT reads the data from the stage and does the automation, the data vault integration, and so on and so forth. So you have to have the data already on your target database, but it does not have to be a PSA, could be a transient stage as well. All right. Then again, thanks for coming. I wish you a nice weekend and see you hopefully next Friday. Bye bye.